Friends, poor folk in Russian or poor people sometimes. It is the first novel written by Fyodor Dostoevsky, written over the span of 9 months from 1844 to 1845. Dostoevsky was in a financial difficulty because of his extravagant lifestyle and his developing gambling addiction. Although he had produced some translation of foreign novels, they had little success. So the novel which I'm going to discuss with you today is The Poor Folk by Fyodor Dostoevsky. So written in Russian language originally, genre it is an epistolary novel, publication date 1846, published in English 1894. So this novel is inspired by the works of Gogol, Pushkin, and Karamazin, as well as English and French authors. Poor Folk is written in the form of letter between the two main characters. One is Makar Devoshkin and Varvara Dobrosilova. Varvara Dobrosilova and Makar Devoshkin, who are poor third cousin, twice removed. The novel showcases the life of poor people, their relationship with rich people and poverty in general, all common theme of literary naturalism. A deep but old friendship develops between them until Dobrosilova loses her interest in literature and later in communicating with Devoshkin after a rich widower, Mr. Baikov, proposes to her. Devoshkin, a prototype of a clerk found in many works of nationalistic literature at that time, retain his sentimental characteristic. Dobrosilova abandons art while Devoshkin cannot live without literature. Contemporary critics lauded Poor Folk for its humanitarian theme, while Vissarion Blinsky dubbed the Russian novel first social novel. So, Vivora Dobrosilova and Makhar Devoshkin are second cousin, twice removed, and live across from each other in the same street in the terrible apartment. Devoshkin, for example, is merely a proportion off section of the kitchen, and he lives with several other tenants such as Gorshkovs, whose sons groans in agonizing hunger almost the entire story. Devoshkin and Dobrosilova exchange letters attesting to their terrible living condition, and the former frequently squander his money on gifts for her. The reader progressively learns their history. Dobrosilovna originally lived in the country but moved to St. Petersburg, which she hates. When her father lost his job, her father became very violent and her mother severely depressed. Her father dies and they move in with Anna Fedorovna, a landlady who was previously cruel to them, but at least pretends to feel sympathy for their situation. Dobrosilovna is tutored by a poor student named Pokrovsky, whose drunken father occasionally visits. She eventually falls in love with Pokrovsky. She struggles to save a measly amount of money to purchase the complete works of Pushkin at the market of his birthday present, then allow his father to give his birthday present, then give the books to him instead, claiming that just knowing he received the books will be enough for her happiness. Pokrovsky falls ill soon after, and his dying wish is to see the sun and the world outside. Dobrosilovna oblique by opening the blinds to reveal grey clouds and dirty rain. In response, Pokrovsky only shakes his head and then passes away. Dobrosilovna's mother dies shortly afterwards, and Dobrosilovna's mother dies, is left in the care of Anna for a time. But the abuse became too much, and she goes to live with Fyodor across the street. Devoshkin works as a lowly copyist, frequently belittled and picked on by his colleagues. His clothing is worn and dirty, and his living conditions are perhaps worse than Dobrosilovna. He considered himself a rat in society. He and Dobrosilovna exchange letters and occasional visits that are never detailed, and eventually they also begin to exchange books. Devoshkin becomes offended when she sends him a copy of Overcoat because he finds the main character is living a life similar to his own. Dobrosilovna considers moving to another part of the city where she can work as a governess, just as he is out of money and risk being evicted. Devoshkin has a stroke of luck. His boss takes pity on him and gives him 100 rubles to buy new clothes. Devoshkin pays off his debt and sent some to Dobrosilovna. She sends him 25 rubles back because she does not need it. The future looks bright for them, of both of them, because he can now start to save money, and it may be possible for them to move in together. The writer Ratazaev, who jokes about using Devoshkin as a character in one of his stories, offends him, but genuinely seems to like him. Eventually, Devoshkin's pride is assuaged and their friendship is restored. The Gorshkovs come into the money because the father case is won in court. With the generous settlement, they seem to be destined to be perfectly happy, but the father dies, leaving his family in a shambles despite the money. Soon after this, Dobrosilovna announced that a rich man, Mr. Baikov, who had dealing with Anna Fedorovna and Pokrovsky's father, has proposed to her. She decided to leave with him, and the last few letters attest to her slowly becoming accustomed to her new money. She asks Devoshkin to find linen for her and begins to talk about various luxuries, but leaves him alone in the end despite his improving fortunes. In the last correspondence in the story, on September 29, Devoshkin begs Dobrosilovna to write to him. Dobrosilovna responds saying that all is over and not forget her. The last letter is from Devoshkin saying that he loves her and that he will die when he leaves her, and then she will cry. So this is the story of The Poor Folk by Fyodor Dostoevsky. The character involved in this novel is there is only two main character. Makar Alexeyevich Devoshkin, the protagonist of The Poor Folk, is a shy, poor, lonely 47-year-old clerk and copyist. He has been compared to other clerks from the national schools such as the Overcoat, Akakiakavich. Although trying to use literature to understand life, Devoshkin does not discuss these topics separately and falsely believes that Dobrosilovna's letters reflect his life, taking short stories as realistic work. He exhibits typical sentimental characteristic. So Varvara Alexeyevna Dobrosilovna, another character, lives in a similar condition as Devoshkin. Her decision to live with the unscrupulous Mr. Baikov makes her an outsider, not typical of sentimental novels. Unlike the heroine in Samuel Richardson 1748 novel Clarissa, she chooses the materialistic path and loses her interest in literature. Her name derives from dobro, meaning good, symbolizing her good-hearted personality. Mr. Baikov, another character, an old, rich, brutal widower, successfully proposes to Dobrosilovna at the end. His name derives from Baik, meaning bull. So these are the characters involved in The Poor Folk by Fyodor Dostoevsky, the first novel written by Fyodor Dostoevsky. I hope you will enjoy it. Thank you very much.